Hey everyone, Dr. Nussi from EasyDOTphysicals.com back again with another video. And in this one I'm talking to potential drivers, people that are looking to get a CDL and drive for a living. And what I want to do today is give you what I think the top 5 things that you need to know before trying to get your CDL. So these are the things that I think are very, very important. I see drivers all day long, every day, and talk to a lot of them. And I understand what kind of tricks people up and trips people up and what's not clear. So I want to go over 5 things that I think that you need to know before getting your CDL. And what I'm actually going to do is talk about 3 that are maybe inconvenient or kind of negative, and 2 that are very, very positive. And again, I've talked to a lot of drivers and they've kind of told me about a couple of these things that are very, very positive. All right, so starting off this list, and again, my expertise is doing the medicals for drivers, so we're going to talk a little bit about the medicals. And it's important to know that if you're going to get a CDL, you are going to be required by the federal government, by the FMCSA. It does not matter what state that you're in, you are going to be required to be not only drug tested, but alcohol tested as well. So any CDL driver, all CDL drivers are considered to be safety sensitive workers, safety sensitive employees. The same as if you are a pilot or if you are a railroad engineer. You are responsible for a very, very large vehicle in most cases, or a vehicle containing hazardous materials, or a vehicle where you're transporting a lot of people. So they want to make sure that you are going to be safe and that you are safe and functional on the road. So they are going to drug test you and alcohol test you. And they're going to do this in a couple different scenarios. You're going to be tested before you can drive. So you're going to have to go in and get a drug test performed and pass that drug test as well as an alcohol test. You're going to have to do that before you can drive. And if you were ever in, God forbid, an accident, a more major accident where there was significant bodily harm or there was significant property damage, you're going to be retested then. And then on a yearly basis, the FMCSA just randomly picks people to be tested as well. So you could be randomly tested as well. So that's what I think is important to know about the drug and alcohol testing, basically that you have to do it. I've done complete videos on the process of drug testing. I'll leave a link to that video up here if you want to know more about that specifically. All right, so number 2 on the list, again, another medical item is you're going to be required to have a physical. This is called a DOT physical, a DOT physical or a CDL physical sometimes is what drivers will call it. Every driver that has a CDL is required to have this, sometimes every 2 years, sometimes every year, sometimes every 6 months or 3 months. Depends kind of on your medical history and what we find when we do your exam, but you will have to have this exam done and then repeated at whatever time frame is applicable to you. Now again, I've done a complete video on what the DOT physical is about, what's in it, how I perform it. Again, I will link that video up here, so I won't go through everything. But what I can tell you from my experience, and I can't guarantee that anyone is going to just breeze through the DOT physical, but if you're in pretty good health, if you're in pretty good shape, you are most likely going to be able to pass the DOT physical. We're looking for people that it's unsafe for you to be on the road. So people that are at, let's say, a stroke risk, people that have very, very high blood pressure, that can be a big problem. We're checking your vision. We want to make sure that you can see and that you can tell the differences in traffic light colors, that you can hear well. I mean, things that if you couldn't do these things, that it would be unsafe for you to be on the road. Again, the FMCSA is just trying to keep the public and you safe. You're, again, controlling very, very large vehicles most of the time. Number 3 on the list, and this doesn't have to do with medicals, but it does have to do with a requirement, and this is a new requirement in 2022, February of 2022 this year. the FMCSA required drivers to go through very specific training. Now, before this, basically the motor carrier would train you on how to operate the vehicle, but now there's standardized training that drivers must go through, again, before getting their CDL. Again, I have done, and I've done complete videos on almost everything as far as truck driving and CDLs and medicals go, but I've done a complete video on this driver training. I will again leave that link up here if you want to know more about the training that you're going to need to go through. And I'm talking about specifically the training on how to operate a motor vehicle. I'll leave a link up there if you want to check that video out in full. All right, so that covers the things that most drivers think are annoying or inconvenient. I mean, obviously, it's not convenient to go in and get drug tested. It's not convenient, obviously, to go in and get a medical exam and go through driver training. Again, that just got mandated. Now, let me give you two that are very, very positive, and I've heard from, again, a lot of drivers, and I hear this all the time from drivers. Number one on this list is, if you become a commercial driver, if you get a CDL, you will basically never be out of work again the rest of your life if driving is something that you want to do. As of the posting of this video, and I don't know exactly the numbers, but I think we're short about 40,000 drivers in this country. And I've done videos on why that is. Is it the actual work and people not wanting to do that type of work? Is it the drug testing or the medicals? So I've done videos on that, so I'm not going to speculate about why, but the facts are, if you want to drive, you can get hired like that, especially if you have a CDL. So if you're a CDL driver, you're basically never going to be without a job. That is probably the career with the highest level of job security, at least that I know of. I all the time hear drivers say, well, I just quit my job and took a month off and then immediately just got hired again. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing to do, to just up and quit your job and take a month off, but I always hear from drivers that can change jobs very, very easily. It's always in demand. If you get a CDL, you will always have a job. All right, and number 5, lastly on this list, and probably most importantly to people out there thinking about driving for a living, getting a CDL and being a CDL driver, is the pay. You can make some serious money driving now if you're in the right situation. Again, I'm saying this over and over again, but I've made a video on Walmart just recently started paying drivers over 6 figures. Now, this is for very specific roles and it depends on your experience and things like that, but you can make over 6 figures now driving. I mean, that's some serious money. And again, it goes back to the fact that when there is a shortage, it's supply and demand. When there's a shortage of something, the pay is going to go up so they can attract more people to it. And there's such a big shortage of drivers now that Walmart and probably other places are going to fall in line too, are paying over 6 figures. That's incredible for a driver to be able to make that kind of money. All right, so that is my top 5 things that I think CDL drivers or potential CDL drivers should know before you go in and try to get your commercial driver's license. I hope this was very, very helpful and useful. Please stay subscribed to this channel. When the FMCSA makes updates, I make update videos. And until next time, drivers, stay safe.